Hey Gunpla fans, this is DZ Maven here, back with another Gunpla review, and it is the month of May. I was about to say March. That would have been totally wrong. It's May. So yes, it's time for another month of Gunpla. I haven't decided yet what this theme of this month is going to be yet, but I figure it's going to be something involving transforming kits here. So, let's take a look at one of the big transforming kits I still have around, which is this guy right here. Now this is the Master Grade ZZ Gundam. He is a pretty old kit here. He came from 1999. He actually came from the last century, if you think about it. So it makes him pretty darn old. And there's supposed to be a new version on the horizon somewhere. So I think it's probably a good time to take a look at this guy and see what he is and how he'll compare to the new one whenever that comes out. So here it is, the Master Grade ZZ Gundam here. As you can see, he is quite a big boy here. Not quite as big as the Sazabi or the new Gundam, but he's still pretty big here. He's got a very wide stance on him. He's a little bit chunky looking. Lots of big angles all over the kit and things sticking out all over him and everything. So he's definitely a very busy looking kit, I'd say overall. And it's a very busy looking Gundam, especially when you get down to the nitty gritty of it. It's quite a busy Gundam because it transforms and does all kinds of things. It does a lot of things. If you've seen ZZ Gundam, you probably should know. Anyway, let's get right on to the details about this kit here. So the overall look of this guy here. Now, as I mentioned, he's pretty big and chunky, and he's got he kind of fills up the space for you here, and he has a little bit of a shelf presence, I would say, here. Lots of colors going on all throughout the kit here. Reds, blues, yellows, whites, grays, really dark gray. In terms of the overall look, he's actually pretty darn faithful looking to the line art, I'd say. He's got that big chunkiness to him here. I think the original line art had more of a, I want to say a kind of a light greenish bluish color for the white, sort of a tinted white on the line art. The Master Grade here is a pure white, so it's, in my opinion, I prefer the pure white to the weird off-white colors. Just kind of my opinion here, but I guess I'm not really going to hold that against the kit for not having that color. But lines, panel lines, there isn't a whole lot of panel lining throughout this kit here because it's so busy to begin with here. But you do have lining on the red shield things, and there isn't actually much on the backpack despite how big it is, but there is a lot of detail on the underside of the backpack which you don't really get to see, so I don't really know if that counts any. And there's just a few minor detail lines that run throughout the kit here, but a lot of it's pretty basic, so the panel lining opportunities are not really a whole lot throughout this kit here, but then again, you probably don't really need that, considering again just how busy this guy looks here, so yeah, it's pretty decent here. As for color apps and color accuracy in places you would need to paint to make them a little more accurate here, a lot of places, especially inside the thrusters in the backpack, are really supposed to be red. It's just a one-piece gray part here. I think there's supposed to be some color inside the vents on the crotch here, but they come in just little blue pieces here. I can't remember what they were supposed to be here. I think red or white or something inside of there. And on the back here, these little vents here, they're actually supposed to be red, but for whatever reason, Bandai gave you yellow pieces to go in there, which is kind of weird. I'm not sure why they did that, because everything I've seen on the ZZ Gundam shows those being red back there, but like it's kind of weird. But yeah, he looks pretty good overall here. I mean, you line him up and do a little bit of detail painting, he'll actually look pretty decent on the shelf, I would say. So I give him a score of 8 out of 10 on the details here, so he's actually pretty decent looking. I mean, he's not perfect. I mean, there are some areas for improvement definitely on him, but yeah, overall he's pretty good looking. And I guess one other thing of color here, we'll stop him for a second here so I can show you. You do get the missile pods on the back here. They open up, or that just comes right off. But yeah, it's just one red piece for these missile pods in there, but that's really supposed to be a black. You should paint black around that so it looks better. It's just me. Speaking of, I'm going to get into articulation here about things that how well he moves. But give me a second here. Let me fix this backpack, and I'll be right back here. All right, back in business here. His backpack is back on again, so we can get back to this. Back. A lot of backpack on him. So let's start with the head here. I do want to make some careful notion about the head here. Now he comes with two types of V-fins on here. This is the articulated transforming V-fin that's on here. You also get a bog standard white plastic V-fin, which is, let me grab it here for you real quick here and show you. You get this plain white V-fin, which is unpainted, which is not the right color at all. It's not red, it's not yellow, it's just white. If you don't want to worry about your V-fin crumbling to pieces on you, you can probably paint this up and use this, but it's like, okay. But I guess that's nice of Bandai to give you that option here. But anyway, the head here, I do want to make a mention here of this transforming head here. You have to be really careful with the V-fin on this head, because if you look at it the wrong way, it tends to just fall apart on you. But I probably will tap it here, or the V-fin may fall apart here, we'll see here. The head can look up pretty nicely on this here, and can look down not so much here. You can turn it around, and as you can see, his V-fin is falling apart. That is going to happen all the time, and I'm probably not going to be able to keep it up because it just likes to fall back down again. So, yeah. So, at least we'll try not to break it. That would be bad. Arms here. Well, let me talk about the little shield things. They can move around pretty well, like so here. If you want to, you can kind of fold it up like that. With the big piece on the outside, it kind of gets it out of the way a little better for you here. I've never really been a big fan of these shields on the side arms of the ZZ Gundam. I think they kind of get in the way a lot. That's just my opinion here. I mean, they look cool, but they kind of get in the way a lot. And one of the themes you'll find on this kit here is that there's a lot of things that kind of get in the way of everything else here. So let's look at the arm here. There's a double split joint inside the elbow here, like that, you can see here. So when you're trying to turn the arm, you're going to end up turning this instead of the upper arm joint, which is up here, which will bend, but most of the time you're probably just going to bend it right here. As for bend in the elbow here, it's about, if you get it just right, you'll have a pretty decent arm bend, like so. But if you twist it kind of a weird way, you're only going to bend that much. So you really have to pay attention to your orientation on the arm here. The hand here is the old master grade 3-finger, index finger, thumb grip here, which is woefully outdated now, but that's what he comes with here, and it's on a little ball joint, which is decently stiff here, so it's not loose or anything. So he'll pose okay with this here. As for actually holding his weapons, that's an entirely different matter, which we'll get into with the extras here. Up in the shoulder here, he can move his arm up that far. That's it. This whole shoulder piece does not move very much here. The big problem here, again, things are running into each other. You try to bend the arm back, we'll pull the arm up. It kind of hits the backpack here, and you can't really move the arm up anymore. You can move it forward more, like that, but there's not really any point to doing that here. And it'll jiggle around a little bit here. It'll kind of move back a little bit because of the way the polycap is in there. I don't know if you can see that, but the polycap will move back, but it won't move forward here. So you got no forward movement in the shoulder here, which is kind of disappointing here. And this little thing will move around. That's for transformation, really here. Moving on down. There is no waist movement on him. He's pretty much a brick inside the chest here. He's not going to move at all here. There's a core fighter in there, so he's not going to move. Skirt armor. This will move. Not really. About that far. Skirt armor barely moves here. Let's see if I can just hold him by the top here. It'll probably be easier here. Get your arm out of the way, please. Try to get your arm out of the way. This little side piece here will move up and out of the way pretty nicely if you need to, but this is mainly for transformation again. So, and there's not really a back skirt on this guy. He's just kind of covered up by the backpack. And the leg will lift up not that far. Move back. He's not going to go back because, again, the backpack is in the way here. Knee bend. It's okay. It's, well, I mean, it's not 90 degrees, but I mean, there is some leg bend there. It's not much. I mean, he's not going to be doing a kneeling pose. Absolutely not. The feet here, and the feet actually have a decent range of articulation, actually. They can bend all the way down, like so. And they can move up like that, and there's a little bit of side to side in them, like so. So the feet articulation is not too bad, actually, considering everything else on the kit. So he's okay, decently okay. The backpack is not really going to move or anything for you. These little missile pods, they kind of wiggle around, but they don't really pose. And up underneath here, we got these giant thrusters. These little covers will move, and the thruster vents themselves will move around a little bit here. There's these tail fins will move, but that's for transformation also. And these giant stalks where the hyper beam sabers are, they will move up and around, all kind of like that here. So I mean, all things considered, for a big transforming kit, the articulation's not terrible on it, but it's you're not going to be getting any really interesting dynamic poses out of this kit here. If you do get them up on an action base, you can kind of make them look a little bit better here. And speaking of action bases, if you have the action base, surprisingly enough, these pronged, the large one, actually fits perfectly on the Master Grade ZZ Gundam's crotch piece. So if you have one of these, use this. This actually fits perfectly on the bottom side of it. So again, he kind of looks better on an action base, so if you can't get him up on one, I would suggest that. But I mean, in terms of articulation overall, he's just kind of average, basically, I'd say, for what he is. I give him a 6 out of 10 on the articulation here, so it's not the best thing, but it's not terrible considering that it's a transforming kit. So yeah, you just have to do the best you can with posing him. Alright, so those extras. Let's talk about those extras here, because that's the other big thing about the ZZ Gundam here. Alright, he's kind of back together here. His V-fin's kind of crooked here, but I'm not gonna mess with it anymore here. So first thing first, let's talk about these hyper beam sabers here. You can just pull those right off. They come right off. And Bandai, kind of thinking a little bit ahead of the time here, actually has little flip out peg notches on here. Gee, where have I seen that before? On a lot of the newer kits have that now, but I don't know. Maybe the Master Grade ZZ Gundam was the first kit to have these little flip out tabs on the weapons here, but even despite having these little tabs here, they are very shallow. I don't know if you can see right there, especially for something that's so big. I do want to put a word out here. The ZZ Gundam has some of the most ridiculous weapons. I mean, they are awesome looking, but they are terrible in reality, if you think about it. Why would you want to hold something that's this big in a hand that small? That doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know how that is supposed to work, especially once you start adding in these giant beam sabers to it here. These things are massive. Look how tall they are. This is a solid chunk of clear pink plastic here, and as you can probably imagine, it's got some weight to it. I can't hold it in my hand, hold it through my fingers very well without drooping. So you can imagine how hard it's going to be for the actual kit to hold this. So it plugs right into the end here, and if you want to chance it, you can try to actually get it into the hand of the ZZ Gundam here. But this is very much a test in patience here to try and make it hold this thing, because first of all, it barely fits in the hand to begin with here, and then you gotta try and get it in the peg hole, and then maybe by some stroke of luck it'll actually be able to hold it. For how long, I don't know. If you want to try and pose with this, good luck, because I tried for a while when I took photos, and I could barely get any good poses with these giant beam sabers, because one, they're just too dang heavy, and they just kind of fall out of the hands really easily here. So yeah, it just came right out. But yeah, a very impressive looking weapon, but it's not very practical. So yeah, that's that's pretty much it for that here. So let's get on to the other ridiculous weapon that the ZZ Gundam has, which is the double beam rifle here. It is nice looking, it is big and impressive, but again, it's kind of the same problem as the beam sabers. It's just, this thing is just so big that there's really no good way to hold it. there is a handle on here with a little notch in here for the hands, same as the beam sabers. But again, when you have it in the hand, it can really only hold it like this. You can't aim it forward because the shoulders won't move up, and you can't really get it under the arms because the backpack is in the way. Because the back side of this thing is like, that's like half of the beam rifle is behind the handle here. When you try and think about that, like, try to imagine like any other rifle you can think of, even a real world one, that has the handle that's actually right square in the middle of the gun, like that, with half the gun sticking out the back of the handle here. I can't really think of any weapon like that. That would be really hard to handle, unless you have an articulated suit where you can actually stand down and have it. Hell, I don't know. I don't even know how that would work. Anyway, again, this thing is a little bit front heavy, so it will kind of droop in the hands if you manage to get into the hands, but again, this is kind of like, and these things will kind of bend. They'll flip around a little bit here. That's for transformation here. So that will move in, the handle will move down, and these little gates come out for transformation. This kind of wraps around the head. I also want to mention, you have the little cockpit that's kind of right inside the butt end of the beam rifle. This has got to be one of the worst designs, worst places to put a cockpit in a mobile suit that I have seen. You don't want to be the poor sap who ends up inside the beam rifle while Judo is piloting the ZZ Gundam and going around and firing and everything, and be like, you're inside the handle and you're moving around. This is a vomit cockpit, basically. That's what that is right there. It's like whatever mechanical designer at Anaheim Electronics designed the ZZ Gundam must have had a real sadistic streak to them to put a cockpit in there. And I don't know if you can notice the V-fin fell apart again while I was talking. So anyway, besides that, you do get the core fighter, a transforming core fighter. I'll show you a picture of that real quick here, a couple of pictures here. It's pretty nice looking, but it doesn't, the little black piece on the front end is not a separate piece, so you get like a really nasty looking sticker for that, which is pretty lame. You do need to paint yellow around the cockpit hatch for it here in order for it to look a bit accurate, and there's some areas of red around the back part of it you probably need to paint in to make it look a little more accurate here. So again, some painting is going to be needed to make this look pretty good here. So I have the actual core fighter inside the kit right now because it looks a little nicer that way. You do get a core block if you want to use that instead with the core fighter, and you can have the core fighter out on display. Painting this is kind of optional. So there are figures of Judo, Ashto, a seated figure and a standing figure, but I don't know where they are. They're lost. They're gone. So, but yeah, it does come with those if you need them here. And beyond that, you have a whole lot of landing gears with this kit here. And it's actually pretty lucky that I was actually managed to find all of these landing gears, because there's a whole bunch of them. I don't know, I want to count them here. How many landing gears are there? How many do you think there are? Okay, want to make your bets here. How many landing gears are there with the Master Grade ZZ Gundam here? Well, we've got one for the front of the beam rifle part, one. And there is another one for the beam rifle part. This one's a little taller, has two. And you got this little short stubby one, which is actually goes right on the crotch piece during the G-Fortress mode, so that's 3. And you get 2 that attach to the knee area during the transformation, so that's 2 more, that's 5 now. And you get these 2 kind of bigger ones here. These attach to, actually believe it or not, they actually attach to the upper arms during the transformation, right there. So that's 2 more, so that's, how many we got here? That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we got 2 back wheels for the core fighter. So that's 8 and 9. And there is supposed to be 1 more. Yep, 1 more. 1 more for the front of the core fighter. So that's 10. You got 10 landing gears that come with this kit here. That's quite a lot here. So yeah. But anyway, plenty to work with here. So the extras, I'm going to give them a score of 7 out of 10 here. They're okay. They're impressive looking. Then it does give you all these little landing gears, which is kind of nice here, I'd say. And you do get your core block, which is nice. But the weapons, you can't really pose with them. I'm really torn on them. They're nice looking, they're impressive, but you can't pose with them, so it's kind of like, what is the point here? So, yeah. Let's see. Moving on to the value of this kit here. I'm just going to get him turned around here because I can't really put him into an interesting pose view here because he's just kind of mostly a brick when he's standing, so I'm just going to leave him like that. This kit came out in December of 1999. So yes, he is from the last century. He retails for 4,000 yen, which is about $36. Now you might be thinking, for $36 for a master grade this big, that's actually not a bad price here. I mean, there's some RE1100 kits that kind of go for a little more than that I've seen. Some of them go for $38 I've seen. But you probably won't be able to find the ZZ Gundam master grade for $36. I mean, let's be realistic here. Most retailers price a kit by how big and complex and popular it is, so you're probably going to find it more around the $45 range, probably, I would guess. But, you know, comparison to a newer ZZ Gundam kit, which is the high-grade Universe Century kit, which came out in 2010, that's a 2,300 yen kit, and that goes for almost about $20, and that's about $16 less than this, but it's a newer version of the ZZ Gundam, and I looked over a lot of pictures of it. I don't have it myself, but it actually looks pretty darn good and comparable to this, just kind of scaled down a bit, and some of the details and proportions look a little nicer on the high-grade Universal Century version. To be honest, just in my opinion, it kind of looks better. So if you want a ZZ Gundam right now, at this very moment, you might want to get the high-grade Universal Century version. The master grade you can probably just pass over, because obviously there is a new version of this coming sometime later this year, and that will undoubtedly be a whole lot better looking. Maybe not better articulated, but we'll see. I have some faith in Hajime Kotoki that he'll be able to figure something out for this. But so value score is going to be a 7 out of 10 for me, so it's purely average. I mean, the $36 is probably a good buy for master grade, but again, it's probably not worth buying because there's going to be a better version coming later on. So this gets a total of 28 out of 40 from me here, so it's an above average master grade kit, still above average I'd say, but you just gotta kind of be aware what you're kind of getting into with a kit this old. And also considering that there's a newer kit coming on the horizon here, it's kind of like, would you really go out of your way to buy this? I don't really think so. I mean, you can't really hold its weapons very well. So, but yeah, speaking of transformation, before I forget here, transformation for this kit is really not that bad, to be honest here. You would think it would be a lot worse here, but the bottom half transformation, when that's transformed, is actually pretty darn solid here. I don't really have an issue with that. Top half transformation, it's a little bit wobbly and floppy, to be honest, because the arms are not very strong. So I'll show you a few pictures here while I'm talking here, obviously, just to let you know what I'm talking about here. Once it's combined to G-Fortress mode, it's actually pretty big, pretty long. You'll probably take up the length of my photo tint here, which is why I don't have it like that here. But it's pretty nice. Transformation, like I said, it's not really that complicated here. You can use the transforming core fighter for the bottom half if you want to have that displayed separately, and use the core block for the top half if you want those displayed together for some reason. But yeah, yeah, the G-Force mode is pretty nice, it's pretty impressive looking, so that's about all I'm going to say about it here. So, but yeah, that's kind of it for this review here. I hope you enjoyed that and found this informative. I've been meaning to kind of take a look back at this guy because I know the new Verkaw is coming later this year, and I want to show this guy off a little bit here ahead of time before the Verkaw comes out here, because I am most definitely getting the Verkaw ZZ Gundam when that comes out here, and I am very, very, very curious to see how Kotoki is going to correct some of the issues that this kit has, because some of the kits are just because the kit is old, Other issues with this kit is just because the basic design of the ZZ Gundam is just so whacked out crazy. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the review. Leave a like if you like this review here. Leave a comment below if you have any questions or comments here. I love hearing them. So, and be sure to subscribe because there's always going to be more stuff coming here. So, especially in the month of May, more things are coming. More Transformers. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I will see y'all later. Bye-bye.